Welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to isolate a very specific moment within Chainsaw Man, one that is sandwiched right between some of the most climatic moments between the entire narrative. This would be known as the hamburger moment or the family burger. You see, the thing about this moment is that it doesn't really make sense and it kind of fits perfectly in all the wrong ways. And this isn't meant to be a bad thing. This isn't a negative towards it. If anything, it's probably one of the most perfect moments within this entire series that shows you the weirdness that is Chainsaw Man. If you ever wanted to send someone a handful of panels from the story with no context whatsoever, this would be some of those moments. What's great about it though, where it's actually positioned. In retrospect, when you go back and read this entire length from prior the hamburger moment to all the way to its ending, you'll notice that its tension is something entirely different, something that isn't necessarily felt within this entire length of narrative reading. There's this very unsettling and suffocating dread and anxiety that forces itself onto you, and it's propelled by one of the most anxiety-driven characters throughout the entirety of the story, and that is Kobeni. You see, Kobeni is a character that does not handle stressful situations well, and she's kind of become this iconic figure within the Chainsaw Man community as that person. Is someone that is very unpredictable with what she will do because of how much anxiety that she actually takes on, to the point where it messes with her speech, to the point where it messes with her actions and how she thinks and how she functions. It genuinely becomes a detriment to her sometimes. But when you see her within the family burger situation, now that she's quit devil hunting and has gone to a more subtle and simplistic working place, it's not all the rainbow and sunshine in comparison to what she was previously doing. If anything, it still triggers and brings up this very anxiety-driven state that she goes into, thanks to the people that she's working around. To help one of the most unusual or weirdest moments within the story, let me build the scene a little bit more. Just prior to this situation, we had Aki versus Denji. We had Power being killed. We had Denji spiraling out of control mentally and emotionally and trying to confide in Makima. We had the reveal of Denji's past and how much of a degenerate his father was to him as a child. We have the reveal of Makima's intentions and the reveal of what the Chainsaw Man Devil actually is. We have the visual representation of the new Chainsaw Man Devil in a brand new form and an ability that erases devils from existence. And just as we get that information, we see Makima get obliterated within a second. A very clear and simple way to show how powerful this form truly is. You see it all bubbling at the surface. You see all of this stuff starting to come out and play, and you're trying to grab onto everything at once. Instead, what Fujimoto does to help you kind of think about that situation in a more clearer manner is he introduces the hamburger moment. This is a very brief and short, but something that is beautifully executed moment as you're coming to understand all of these incredible things that have just happened, all of these brand new understandings and meanings and history and lore for Denji, for Makima, for their representation, for what they're worth, what their value is, what they're trying to achieve. You get the best platform to do so in a borderline 2-chapter comedic moment that is filled with so much anxiety that either draws you completely in to focus on it and forget about everything else, kind of to reset you before everything that's going to come after it, because you know everything that's going to come after it is going to be the biggest of the biggest, or to allow you to devour the information that you have in your brain within these more subtle moments. This hamburger or family burger moment is so out there to put right after so much vital and important information that it almost doesn't really make sense, but it works to the highest of levels to shift your perception of the entire situation. And the person that makes this the best it can be is Kobeni. She is the highlight of it. Without her being a character, or without her having this massive drive of anxiety that controls her life and sometimes even cripples her very drastically, this moment wouldn't be the same. This moment would fall flat rather heavily or have an entirely different tone on top of it. But because Kobeni is known to having anxiety, because Kobeni is a very nervous individual, it's escalated. It skyrockets to this point where you see her in a whole new light, but you can't help but feel a cluster of different emotions. You're laughing at the situation at hand, you can't help but feel bad or sad for the scenario that Kobeni has found herself within, or you're extremely nervous because you just witnessed a bunch of characters characters get killed, and the same could happen to Kobeni. This very brief moment has pushed Kobeni to be one of my most favorite characters within the story. There's a little bit after it as well that makes her deeply relatable in helping Denji coming to understand himself, coming from her own perspective and upbringing and family, what she values. But within here, she's something else entirely. So prior to Denji arriving at Family Burger, you see Kobeni somewhat being abused. This is a brand new job for her. She's learning the ropes and she's nervous about the situation. You can't help but feel bad for her, and the way that her co-workers are treating her, extremely disgusting. They even go as far as slapping her to try and get her out of the habit of creating this nervous tic because of her anxiety that she has, which comes in the form of speech that she frequently repeats. You can see her trying her best. This very small scene is honestly unsettling. Even though everything after it is very all over the place, this right here between two individuals that are kind of talking to her and trying to quote unquote solve the problem when it isn't problematic to be as nervous as she is, when it isn't problematic to have the anxiety or the tic that is birthed from that anxiety. Having these random people try to solve it in a physical manner or a mental manipulated manner is just unsettling, which puts her in a very uncomfortable position where she starts asking someone for help, and because Denji within this new form abides by that rule, he's there in an instant. Obviously this takes her issues that she was just having, throws them out the window completely, and now she's focused well and truly on Denji. See, the thing about these moments is that it's spliced with some panels of Denji as a child talking to Pochita and reflecting on things that he would want. It directly kind of humanizes this very monstrous state that he's currently in. It's very small and not as frequent, but it's directional. So you see this monstrous state and you feel like he's out of control, but then you see him reflect on wanting to eat a very nice burger that isn't rotten, and that becomes the drive within the moment. I always personally thought this moment of Denji was more so a back and forth battle of losing himself, where he doesn't fully have control, but he's kind of more so based on instinct. And something that helps propel this even further is an action that takes right after it, where Denji really wanted to go on a date with a woman, and Kobeni is the only option there for him. Before that, however, Denji obviously wants a burger, and people are slowly getting killed because the burger's not being delivered, so Kobeni is the one to bring the meal across. And this is genuinely the most priceless moment within the entire story, because you honestly don't expect it to happen. This situation has become so intense, so suffocating, there's so much conflicting emotion, and the atmosphere is just swirling entirely. Person to break and shatter that glass completely is Kobeni. The most anxious character within the story trips with the tray of food and throws it onto Denji. You can't help but smile, laugh, cry, feel bad, so many different emotions, and it's done so gracefully. And she doesn't even do it once, she does it twice, and it has the exact same effect. It's not something that's nullified right after it, it's just as empowering. Within that saddened state, she ends up delivering a burger and Denji enjoys it. It then shifts into that date scene and we get probably easily another infamous moment, and that is her playing Dance Dance Revolution, DDR. She's never danced before, but Denji pushes her to do so, and you end off this sequence with her just dancing, doing her absolute best to entertain the idea, and her being somewhat set free. And mind you, this shouldn't necessarily be a thing. What I mean by that is the form that Denji is currently in, the person that usually asks for help genuinely gets killed after it's completed. That's usually how it works. Hamakiman was the proof of that. So having that idea within your head that the person asking for help is going to get killed, reflect everything that's just happened with Kobeni, that entire situation is filled with that as well. You can't help but think that she's going to die just randomly at the end, and she doesn't. She lives, and it's kind of surprising that for her being such a side character that we've rarely seen, she managed to survive, and in the most human and humorous ways possible. To be entirely honest, as amazing as Chainsaw Man is as a whole, and there's so many different things that I love about it, this very small scene with Kobeni is probably easily my favorite because it's so unpredictable, and I can't help but have such a conflicting emotion towards it. I don't know what to feel when I'm reading it, and I remember very vividly when I was reading it week to week just how unsettling it truly was. But even then I still couldn't put my finger on what Fujimoto was trying to do, what the purpose of this situation was. At the end, it creates this weird paradox of thoughts and emotions that are struggling or clashing with one another, and it turns out to be probably one of the most humorous, simplistic, mixed with being such an intense moment for everyone, whether you liked Kobeni as a character or not. For a lot of you, this may just seem like a simple scene, but I promise you this is very difficult to do. Going completely against the grain of the narrative within some of the most climatic and revealing moments is inherently impressive to pull off, and the result and payoff is absolute perfection. So with that being said, that is basically it. I'd like to know within the family burger moment, what is your favorite bit? Is it Kobeni tripping over? Is it the DDR situation? Is it Kobeni struggling with the crippling anxiety that she has? Or maybe how Denji upholds himself and acts like a dog of some sort? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I'd like to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. New video every 3 days. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.